Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to this week's featured photographer of the week. I'm with Stacy Kennedy. To give you a little background on me, I am the co-owner of Evolve. My wife and I purchased this business about 2 years ago from Sal Sincata. I've been working with Sal and Evolve for over 10 years, and I'm excited to get to know Stacy a little bit more and hear about her business.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Dustin. Super excited to get that email and actually talk face to face with you and see you versus, via email and phone. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about you got into photography when, what genres you kind of started out, where you've kind of gone to today. Talk to us a little bit about that history.
Yeah, so I am a portrait photographer. I mainly shoot high school seniors,
Okay.
but I also do corporate headshots, branding, some family, a little bit of this, a little bit of that kind of
Hmm.
situation. I've been in business for Um, 13 years now. I had to
Okay.
do math in my head there. Um, I'm that cheesy, like I started the whole thing was the cheesy story of, hey, I had a kid, I should get a nice camera, and then I can
Mhm.
take pictures of my kid because I can do this kind of thing. And so that's kind of where it started, and it grew from there. My background, though, is actually in the fashion industry. So I worked on shoots when I worked in the fashion industry. So that kind of led itself into the photography of where I went with it. So I, kind of grew with it that way.
So from fashion to seniors, have you kind of taken that wardrobe and that kind of makeup and production and all that, you've kind of put that into your seniors and kind of that's where you've built your brand from?
Oh, definitely. I feel like that really helped my business knowing how to coordinate certain
Hmm.
things when it comes to outfits, layering, textures, all of that. But then also art is art. So using that into photography, the same kind of design elements
Right.
really helped myself in the photography industry and building my work the way it is. The color balances and looking for certain things that are complementary and all of that.
So a fashion background, you're a color theory master, all of that good stuff. I think, in thinking about like a senior and a parent, and depending on where you're at, in the country, for them to come in, they're looking for an experience that like, you have photographers in your market that maybe didn't come to photography in that same way. Maybe they came from an art background or like from your point, hey, I'm taking photos of kids in school and I kind of have I already have kind of a foot in the door as they're getting through school. And how do I continue having that? I think a lot of times senior photographers kind of come from school and sports, like naturally, and you're there all the time. And so breaking into senior market is it's always interesting depending on where you are. Like on the coasts, I don't want to say senior photography doesn't exist, but it doesn't exist like it does in the middle of the country. Like
Right.
we don't have these cultural massive events. Your rite of passage is graduating college, doing the senior photos, anything but hugging a tree and laying down next to the year that you're going to graduate. Anything but that, right? That was my
Exactly.
experience in like 2004 graduating.
Yeah, I love the whole peak around the tree. Like,
It
hold on to
is.
this.
Yeah, it's like your hands are gonna be so comfortable hugging this tree. And oh, what's that in the background? Is that a little waterfall back? Let's go. Oh, we got found a little water, everything's
Yeah.
so like, oh, like by chance. And you see like senior photography just like exploded, like on location, taking people to, broken down parts of the city and it's like there's always those kids that are super proud of their car, but you're like, should you be proud of your? I'm glad you're this beat up thing. It's yours, but that's like part of the identity. And that's the fun part about seniors, right? There's new challenges. Kids are always wanting to put their cars on grass, or girls are wearing like magenta colored dresses, and you're just like, well, we can't go to the red brick wall. You're going to be radiating. So, um,
Exactly.
well, let's talk a little bit about seniors in your business. Are you focused on in-person sales session? Are you doing online sales? Are you, hey, here's your digitals. Let me know if you have any printing. I'm around. Like, how does that part of your business work out?
I am all for in-person sales. I
Okay.
want to say that was probably one of the best decisions I made in my business.
You didn't start out in-person sales, you
No,
started
I mean,
digital style.
you're right. I was the complete shoot and burn in the beginning,
Hmm.
and I had heard about in-person sales and, learning how to do it. Probably it was definitely a scary jump when you first do it, but
Hmm.
once you get into it, you're like, why wasn't I not doing this from the beginning?
Yeah.
So, and I guess my clients, that is something they expect some of that personal touch. The idea of them having to go through all of their images and figure out which images to print or just like narrowing down, it's hectic. It's so much for them to do on their own. So having them to be able to come into the studio and I can guide them through the process because that's what we do. We're the professionals. We're the ones
Hmm.
that took these images. We can point out certain things that a client might not see, when it comes to like leading lines or why I picked this image versus that image. Um, I mean, the other thing too is for the fact that when I have a client in my chair, I can see their face and I can see
Right.
when their eyes light up if they really love an image, or I can also see if they like an image but there might be something a little off. And
Hmm.
so being able to see that, I can give them that extra service of saying, "Hey, you love that image, but why did you say no?" And they could say, "Oh, well, I really love this, but I didn't like how my hair was laying there, or I didn't like this." Now, if that could change this, I'd blow this picture up, to a 20 by
Sure.
30, put it on my wall. And then I'm like, yes, let's change that. I'm going
Hmm.
to send it over to Dustin. We're going to change this, and then you're going to print this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you're sitting down with somebody, I mean, at the ground level, there's an excitement. There has to be impact. The impact comes through with sales. But you said something that's I think really important is you're reacting to, their experience looking at these pictures and you're going, why did they say no to that? How do I get them to say yes? I mean, your job is, dealing with and navigating really all the yeses and nos to get them more pictures, more money. But at the end of the day, they're picking the pictures. So it's like, how did we get to $6,000 in a sale? And you're like, well, you picked 45 images and you chose these. So they're not like angry. So they're like, oh, geez, that was way higher than I wanted to be, but they can't narrow it down. So you've created a good experience where they're coming and picking pictures. There's no pressure, but you've created too many good images for them, right? What a good problem to have.
Right.
And
And
you're
I
typically
mean,
having those sessions within what, a week, 2 weeks from
say
the
that
shoot?
again.
You're typically having the in-person sales session between 1 to 2 weeks of the shoot.
Yes. Yeah. I like to, if, depending on the season I'm in, I like to have it, 1 week.
Hmm.
But then sometimes, I mean, summer busy season, maybe 2 weeks. But yeah, that quick turnaround too is another thing that basically puts my business a little bit more in the foreground is the fact that they don't have to wait 2, 3 months to get
Right.
their images. I can have them in the studio, get everything shown to them. They place their order, they see it, and even when it comes to prints, then it's like a week or two after that and everything's done.
Well, I mean, you have, right? And for your business, you're trying to forecast revenue as well, right? So like you run January marketing and it's $20 a day and you have, okay, I've landed 10 seniors to shoot in March. Okay. Well, if you've got to shoot on March 1st, you should have money in the bank by, right, 2 weeks into March. Maybe it's 4 weeks. So once deliverables are picked, edited, ordered, shipped, and delivered, right? Clients are paying, regardless of payment plans, all that kind of stuff. We don't need to get into that, but you should be able to forecast revenue. So when you're running $500 in ads in January, you've put together, okay, my average client in March is $2,000. However, money in the bank is a net 14, a net 30, or net 45, whatever that time frame is. I think that's important for you as a business owner but at the same
Oh,
time, a good way for you to start to look at, okay, costs per client, what they're spending. And is that something? So when you went from digital to in-person sales and then in-person sales to V10 or whatever version you are today, when you first started in-person sales, what was your goal for a senior to make on a session? Like, what was like, oh man, if I made $500, I made it.
that was pretty much it.
Okay.
Yeah, a $500 print package. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're
You're like,
gonna,
we're going out to eat steak dinner. Yeah, $500.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell, and I tell my husband, he's like, nah, and I'm like, for real?
Right. And you would probably, prior to that, you were charging $300. I'll do your senior session, right?
Oh
400
yeah,
bucks.
yep, exactly. Like,
Editing
around that
yourself, taking months
250
probably
for
to get the pictures
everything.
back. Probably took you a long time to get the images back to your client. They weren't paying much. So it's like, you get what you pay for, you've probably, so when you started digitals, did you have like a massive amount of like attention, a lot of customers, like shoots all the time because you were priced so cheap? Or were you struggling at the beginning because you were priced so cheap? Did you have a hard time getting customers?
You know, thinking about where I started, I was all over the place with everything.
Okay.
I just wasn't seniors. I was newborn, I was family, I was, you name it, I shot it. And so I was busy doing pretty much everything,
Hmm.
but not doing anything really great.
Fair
And
enough. Just a lot
so,
of work. But I mean, you're getting started, right? You
right,
have to start somewhere
exactly.
and adjust. And yeah, of course.
It wasn't until I actually decided to niche down and be like, okay, I'm going to focus on this genre and how to successfully run a business doing this. And then as I got really good at that and like, okay, I've got my ducks in a row, my like the running a successful business, my foundation and everything, then that's where now I'm like, okay, now I'm going to take this on and I can take the model that I've built with my senior stuff and now build that with other genres because I have the footing there.
So with that building on seniors, you've added other genres to your portfolio to grow the business, not because, hey, seniors have slowed down, seniors are drying out, I need to supplement income with other things. You've just been growing all channels of photography, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah. And in where I live, and I mean, a lot of people have this too, is there's a short season for seniors. So what are you going to do the rest of those months? I mean, the idea of, and you hear this all the time, the slow season. So everybody just kind of sits back and then they just wait. But why? Why do we wait? We're trying to run a profitable business all year
Sure.
round. Why are we not doing things in these other months that you might not be shooting your main genre? So that's kind of where that came from.
Branding, headshots, you mentioned families. So with those, I wouldn't say newer to you genres, but you're putting the same business model of seniors into those other genres, which is newer, or it's a little more focused on revenue generating. What's that? What does Stacy Kennedy photography look like? Are there sub brands? Does it all still fall under your house brand for everything? What does that look like?
Yeah, right now everything's still under Stacy Kennedy Photography. I don't name a certain type of business a different name.
Okay.
I have a different website for my headshots and my
Right.
branding. But that's about it.
Subdomains, of course, because
Yeah.
the audience is different. To have senior pictures next to a guy that has a Edward Jones office, it's like, uh, what? I'm not gonna,
Right.
I'm not
I
gonna put
want to
the
keep my
dresses on out in
target
the pub. Yeah,
market. I want to keep that target market clear, when
of
I'm trying
course.
to market to them. So
So to kind of, wrap things up, you're expanding services. Are you still shooting everything yourself? Have you expanded to other associate photographers? What do the next steps look like for the business and growing your internal team?
actually, funny that you say that is I hired a new associate photographer just recently to kind of expand. Um,
Okay.
I've always had a studio assistant help me
Hmm.
with the like running the business and client communication, which extremely helps. And then I had the opportunity, which I wasn't really looking for it, but I had a photographer reach out and was interested in, being an associate photographer.
Huh.
And as I was thinking about that, I thought of all the things that I know that I should be shooting, but maybe I'm not like super excited to shoot that genre, but I
I
know that
see.
it would be great for my business because at the end of the day, what are we doing here? We're trying to run a
Making money.
business. And
Yep.
so, yeah, we're gonna go into this direction. I have an associate photographer that's going to help me and shoot other genres that I might not have time to do, or something that she loves and I might not love, and
Hmm.
grow the business even there. So this is just the beginning, hopefully.
Well, I mean, bringing another associate photographer. I mean, you're being the owner, the CEO. You're looking at things from a 50,000 foot view, and again, making money. When you're not on site shooting, is the business making money if you're not in a sales session? So expanding those operations, I think with that growth, I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, to take a look at, well, I'm busy for 2 or 3 months, I'm gonna, you know, bury myself in photography and then have 8 months of like slow season. I don't think makes sense. I don't know how you'd run a business that way or do it full time. But from an entrepreneurial perspective, I mean that's got to be exciting. I mean, you have a brick and mortar studio now, right?
Yeah, yes, I do. That's actually, I had one previously and I moved into a new space, so we're just actually getting that set up. But it's going to give us a lot more opportunity to grow, more room and everything like that,
Hmm.
and then the ability to shoot more than just a headshot in our studio, or just shoot more than just on location. So it's just kind of that building process to take the business to the next level.
Absolutely. I mean, all that considered, I mean, you definitely have a 2025 workload that's it's definitely increasing. There's plenty of, concerns with post-COVID and consumer spend after, an election year and all these things. And I love seeing like not waiting around, moving fast to market. Obviously opportunities pop up. Photographer wants to join the team and you're like, I mean, I guess I can add another person to payroll, and you're like, well, if I can make 3x their salary on revenue base, and then if you're just going to be mainly doing the shoots that you want to do, right? That's always a great feeling. Um, but you're starting to hand off skill set off to others and build within your organization. Because I think a lot of creatives like the idea of working for themselves because they did. But once you have to really become an entrepreneur and rely on and all that stuff, you're just like, it just takes the fun, right? I just want to be a photographer. I want to do the fun stuff and get paid. That's not a business owner, right? Of a
Right.
photography business. That's just not how it works. Or in some cases, you're all business. You have no idea with photography. That's people you hire. And then there's always that disconnect. Like, I don't know, just do what the client asks. And you're like, that you can't do that with the camera. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't work. All those things become a little more genuine and things like that. So, well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me, talking about your studio. I feel like even though it's the first time we've done a video call and we haven't done, we're always on the phone chatting or texting or emailing. I learned even more about your business through this. So I thank you for your time. And we will connect next week with our featured photographer. Thanks for everyone tuning in.